January 1st, 2019 was the date. That was the date when AEW, All Elite Wrestling, was announced as being birthed as a company. When this was first announced, it was pretty big news because there had not really been a new wrestling company that was kind of considered to be on that scale in a very long time. This is one of the, only companies outside of WWE in recent memory that was able to be on a weekly, be televised weekly, and that had actual money behind it. Before that, after WCW, there was really just TNA, and that was it, because I don't think that any other company really had gotten so lucky. I mean, I guess ROH had some minor television broadcasting from what I know, but I don't remember ever being able to see it on TV. I don't think that ROH was ever necessarily like a company that had quite a lot of budget behind it, but AEW, seemed very promising because they had so much money behind it with the Khan family. The Khan family, I believe they're at least, if they're not billionaires, they're multimillionaires. They're very, very wealthy people. So, this was a company that had budget, it had promise, it had excitement behind it. And you did have a lot of big names, or, big names in the context of wrestling, who were jumping ship. Obviously, you had Chris Jericho. I think he was the first AEW champion. You had Cody Rhodes, who had a pretty, loyal fan base. You had John Moxley, or, I'm probably going to call him Dean Ambrose for this video because that's just who he is to me. You had CM Punk. You had a lot of different, well-established names. Sting was there. I believe Matt Hardy was for a while. And then, of course, obviously some more Smark favorites like Kenny Omega, who was, the Smark pretty much like the Smark's darling for quite a few years. I don't know if he's necessarily as big as he used to be, but he is there. The Young Bucks, of course. And there's a few other ones. I just don't care to name, or I don't know their name, but this was big news for a lot of people if you're that type of person. And a lot of people swore that, this was going to be the next big thing, that this had the potential to be even bigger than WCW, that WWE was finally going to have some real competition. Now the date is January 17th, 2025. And we can ask ourselves the question, how did all of that pan out? How did the new spiritual successor, WCW, the thing that was finally going to get WWE on its toes, how did that end up? Well, it was just announced that AEW was going to Australia. Now, that's pretty big news, of course. WWE had been to Australia a few times. You obviously had the Hulkamania tour there, brother, with Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan bleeding all over the place in Australia back in the day. Well, back in the day, 2009, but you get it. So, there's some things you can associate with Australia and wrestling, right? So it was supposed to be AEW Grand Slam. Now, seems like it was meant to be a big thing. I don't think it's a pay-per-view per se, but it was supposed to be, the first HBO Max exclusive, because now that Raw went to Netflix, AEW, of course, kind of has to weasel their way into the streaming market, too. But, so yeah, seems like it was meant to be big. So they booked an arena, and I believe it was supposed to hold 30,000 people. They ended up not being able to fill that arena that size, which, yeah, big shocker. But anyway, they moved to a smaller arena, and instead of it being aired as an HBO Max exclusive, it was just going to be aired on TNT. But then they couldn't air it at the allotted time, which was 8 p.m. They had to, because of All-Star Weekend, so they had to move it to 2 o'clock in the morning. And it seems to now it's just going to be a regular episode of AEW television. So it seems like they put a ton of effort into this big move and doing a show in Australia for nothing, basically. Just for a show that's not even going to be special in any way like they had previously advertised. Excuse me, I have a cold. I'm sorry. But anyway. So it does kind of seem like this was a big a big effort for pretty much what is just diminishing returns at this point. And what I wanted to talk about more so, this inspired the topic of this video, but it's, kind of like an AEW company retrospective or trajectory into just how much this company has not been able to achieve its set goals or what people wanted it to achieve. So, I had talked about how they had been able to get a lot of different names that had interested the fans, and a lot of those people ended up just flaming out in AEW, just not really even doing much of what they were set out to do, and then just going back to WWE. So a good example is CM Punk. CM Punk was what? He was hurt for most of his run in AEW. I don't think he even really did all that much, and where is he now? And same thing for Cody. Cody is still doing his thing in WWE. I don't think he's even thinking about AEW anymore. And these people were only around for, the first couple of years. And now, from what I'm seeing, they are pushing like Edge and Chris Jericho, which, I mean, I like both of them, but it's gotten to the point where it's like, I thought a lot of AEW fans had given WWE shit for that, for only pushing older guys, and now look at what they're doing. They're pushing two guys who are pretty much over, I think, are they both over 50 years old? If they're not, they're getting there. But, so yeah, just things like that. I think that the big problem with AEW as a whole, too, is that they did not have really, like, a set, like, they kind of, like, it was a weird thing where they do have an unlimited budget at this point, which is amazing, because a lot of companies struggle with that. They struggle with budget and funding, but they don't really have that problem. So what the real problem is, in my opinion, has been that they don't really have any kind of clear vision about what it is that they wanted to do. They didn't have any set plans for wrestling. I know the big thing with them in the beginning especially was that they were rated TV-14. Everyone was like, oh my god, they're TV-14, it's going to be edgy. But like, from what I've seen, it doesn't really seem like they've even like taken advantage of that. It wasn't like they set out to make like an edgier wrestling product. It kind of just seems like this company ended up cannibalizing itself by only caring about what Dave Meltzer had to say, and Meltzer 5-star matches, and everybody getting their spots in, and, all these different, basically they didn't have any kind of clear, they didn't have any kind of clear vision about what they actually wanted this company to be. And I think that we're definitely seeing that now, but I kind of do feel like it is imploding on itself, and a lot of the fans are still kind of holding out hope and hoping that this is going to be like, oh, well, it hasn't gone out of business yet, so how can you say that's failing? Well, you don't need to go out of business to say that something failed. I don't think they're going to go out of business anytime soon with the amount of money that there is behind. I just don't see that happening, but I don't think that they've even really moved the needle at all. They never ended up getting, I don't think they have any people who attracted different types of people. They've only attracted their one, main fan base, the loyal, like the hardcore, loyal fan base, which is fine, but like, they haven't really expanded the way they wanted to, or the way that a lot of people thought they would. Their attendance figures are pretty much in the shitter. The ratings, they haven't broken the rating they got on their first episode, which was, I think, 5 or 6 years ago at this point, of Dynamite. And in 2024, their average attendance was about 4,000 people. And the year before that, it was just under 6,000. So you can honestly say that the audience is dwindling in some ways. I don't see it dwindling that far off anymore, because they never really had a big audience to begin with. But I do definitely think that even their own fans are kind of going to get tired of this and get tired of defending them, because it kind of happened with a lot of different companies as well. Like, I don't think anyone's really talking about, obviously what happened to ROH and what happened at TNA. Their fans just kind of gave up. And I definitely think that that's the same thing that's going to be happening with AEW, and that's what's currently happening. So I just wanted to make this little video about, the state of wrestling in 2025. I didn't think that I would even be coming back, but I kind of saw this story, get circled around the wrestling bubble, and I wanted to make a video and just kind of give my thoughts. you know, the YWC at this point is kind of just, I don't think it's really a thing. I think it's kind of just dead, but I've had, you know, like 2 or 3 people, you know, ask me if I would ever come back and start making videos and give my thoughts. And you know what, maybe. I don't think I'm ever going to be truly back and then I'm watching every single week and giving my thoughts, because I have a life, people. I can't be doing this the same way that maybe I would have done in 6th or 7th grade. But yeah, so that's my thoughts. You know, maybe I'll put out the occasional video every now and again. I could honestly see this video kind of just being a feeler for if anyone's even interested in that. But yeah. All right, have a good night, guys. That was my thoughts on the current state of AEW.